Bam, we're live. Welcome back to Fully Human. This is podcast 2.0. We're trying it again. We are making a comeback. I've felt a pull to get back to the podcast. And for those of you that are new here, I'm Taylor. I'm a life and leadership coach, a men's coach, a relationship coach. I wear a lot of hats. I have a background in strength and conditioning, and I kind of love all things about life. And this idea of fully human came to me years ago about what does it mean to live the full expression of ourselves. And that's really what this podcast is, where there's like an edge between personal growth and processing and awareness and healing that's helpful. And then there's a time to just live a life, have a beer, go hang out with the boys, watch some football. And I think we need all of it. We need an emotional capacity. We need to work on our fitness. We need to connect to the land and nature, connect to our ancestors, some kind of spiritual connection. Relationships are monumental. And so personal growth, professional growth, I think we're all here for a reason. And I think it is, to live out our gifts, our dharma, our purpose, and to love, actually. It's all just about love. So anyways, diatribe. I am recording this podcast because I felt pulled to talk about the thing that has helped me the most in my growth in healing and spiritual journey, and also what I work with men on a regular basis, what I see all the time, where people get stuck. And it is about building your emotional capacity. And I have been in the personal growth space for over a decade, probably 15 years. I've always been interested in podcasts. I almost studied psychology. I've done growth workshops and seminars and teachers and mentors and mindset and all of that. And I spent a lot of time really in my head, in my mind, and trying to problem solve, trying to therapize, trying to process my way out of life. And it worked to an extent. And it's kind of like trying to discipline your way through your problems, work harder. But I found in myself and even the clients that I was teaching that would only take you so far because they would know what they needed to do. They essentially became really self-aware and still stuck. And after 6 months, a year, 5 years of doing deep work, they still would default to their old patterns. They'd fall back into avoidance or staying away from conflict, numbing out, self-sabotage, reactivity, playing it small, not creating boundaries, whatever it was. And it's because they didn't have the emotional capacity and they never trained their nervous system. And that, even in itself, if you're listening, might be an aha moment. Yes, you can train your nervous system the same way that you go to the gym and you lift weights and you can build muscle. So the next time you go there, instead of bench pressing 100 pounds, you can bench press 105 pounds and then 115 and then 150 and then 200 pounds. We can build our nervous system's capacity. And it's about energy, which this is where I lose people sometimes. It's a little woo-woo. It's a little spiritual, especially men who are concrete and disconnected. I pause because men aren't really disconnected. They're actually the most sensitive people I know. They just have not learned how to be okay with feeling or sit with or express the energy. But essentially everything is energy. And people push back a lot on the importance of this or the value. And yet we all know the phrase, you can cut the tension with a knife. We've all been in these rooms where we walk in and we can just feel something is wrong. We can tell when the people we love are upset, even though they say that we're fine. We can feel whether we trust people, whether they feel we meet them for the first time. And it's like, is this trustable? And we all have this energetic transmission, which is really what shows up in a room when you do, how people feel when they're around you. You know, some people you're around, you feel more calm and relaxed and open. Some people you feel more on edge and chaotic. So energy is everywhere. And when it comes to growth and making change and shifting your identity, we need to grow our capacity. This is the number one thing I see with men that they need to work on. This is where I start. It's kind of two paths at once. We're walking the path of awareness and self-discovery and getting to the root of why we are the way that we are. our patterns, our wounds, our trauma. But it doesn't matter if we don't have the capacity to be without awareness or to make real changes. And so for a lot of my life, I became really self-aware. I knew what I needed to do. I knew the steps. I could see in real time the dynamic playing out in my relationship, or why I self-sabotaged in job interviews in my early 20s. But I didn't know how to actually do something different. And that's because I didn't have the emotional capacity in my nervous system to be with the energy that comes from doing something new, to getting out of our comfort zone. And this is what I love to teach men, because it's transformed my life, right? So I had a relationship where I was in a really anxious attachment style, and she was in this avoidant attachment style. And there were times where I was afraid to speak my truth because of the fear or the discomfort of her pulling away. And it's because I didn't have the capacity. Or, when I meet a new group of friends and I want to show up a certain way, instead of trying to fit in, instead of trying to belong, instead of doing things I don't want to do or being someone I don't want to be, falling to these patterns, because I don't have the capacity that it takes to be different or to swim upstream, if you will. And so this is what's missing, I think, and a lot of personal growth is actually being able to regulate your emotions and grow your capacity. And it's really all the work I do with men is about both. If you're not regulated and grounded, you can't relate in conflict, you can't be trustable, you can't relax. And this is why so many men, I've had so many guys come through my programs who are anxious, they're depressed. And typically that's because they don't know how to move the energy. Those emotions are just energy, and we can actually regulate ourselves and clear the emotions so we can be more grounded and not get attached to the stories that come with that. And then we can grow our capacity so that essentially what that means is, if there is a lot of anxiety, instead of shutting down or running, we can actually just be with it. And we can notice like, oh, I'm having an experience of anxiety, but that's not me. And that's not a permanent state. And I'm going to do the brave thing anyway. I'm going to stretch myself. And so what I found there's so many good men out there, but they struggle to, really lead the way they want, or lead themselves. And it's because they don't have the capacity. I think about guys in my men's group who they get into this constant conflict pattern in their relationship. It's because their partner brings them all these emotions, her pain, her rage, her upset, her disappointment. And he doesn't have the capacity to be with that. It's actually not that she's too much, which is the classic projection on women and fear of women, that they're too much, I'm too much. It's not that they're too much, it's that the energy, the emotion is too much for a lot of men. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to be with it. So we want to do whatever we can to get rid of it, because men want to be empty. They want to be free. And what do you know? That creates conflict. That creates disconnection. That creates rupture. And so for a lot of men, especially in a relationship, it's like, oh, how can we grow our capacity to just be with her emotion? Because that's all she wants. She wants to feel it, to express it, to share it, to be held in it. She's not asking you to fix it or get rid of it. And if you can't be with that energy, it's a recipe for disaster. And then, I think of another guy who is like, he's in his 20s and he wants to ask women out and he wants to go on dates, but there's this fear, there's this freeze that happens because it's vulnerable, it's risky. Men don't want to be canceled, they don't want to be creeps, they also don't want to be rejected. And so, a friend of mine asked if I knew any dating coaches, which I think is great and noble, and like he wants to get help, but that is more strategy driven. And what I have found is like, let's actually change our baseline and expand our capacity. And if we do that, then, when the fear kicks in, we see a woman out at a party who we want to talk to, it's like, oh, we can feel that, we can be with it, but we can do something different. And all the executives I work with, this is the same thing. It's like leading a team and not being reactive and disruptive and projecting, this rage and disappointment when things don't go your way. It's about, oh, do you have the capacity to be with that? And this is where I think so many of us struggle, where you actually know what you want to do with your life. You have a vision, but you don't have the capacity to be with the discomfort that it takes to get there. Reaching your goals, having the love that you want, living your purpose, being authentic, being the black sheep in your family, speaking up for your needs, all of that takes a huge emotional capacity. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this. And so when I learned this stuff through breath work and embodiment practices, it changed the game because one, I was more regulated. I was more calm. I was more relaxed. And then people could feel me different. I remember the same relationship I told you I was in, where I had an anxious sort of attachment style. All of the sudden, I was more confident. I was more grounded. She trusted me more. She stopped pushing back all the time. I stopped getting defensive because I didn't need to, because I was just regulated. I was able to work really hard to create a business, to create programs, because I had the capacity to be with that. So that's step one. First is you need to know how to regulate your emotions, your energy, your nervous system. You need to clear out energy, because it's not just stress. It's not just burdens and problems of the world. It's actually when you're around other people. If you live with other people, if you're in a workplace, I mean, think about, it's so easy to realize and feel the impact of negative people. You feel icky. You feel kind of gross when you're around people who are complaining all the time. Well, you are actually absorbing that energy, and it's getting in your body. And if you don't know how to clear it or protect your own energy, you're going to keep taking that on, and then you're going to be more negative. You're going to be more down. You're going to make more excuses. And so all day, every day, we are absorbing energy from other people, from a stressful environment, from toxic relationships, from complainers, from stress. And the thing is like, it becomes an emotion, but emotions are just energy in motion. That's the Latin definition of the word. And they need to move, and we can clear them. And so the practices that I teach through breath work mainly is a way to actually clear the energy, so that we're empty and we're free. And really, even in one session, before you do it and after you do it, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel at peace, free, relaxed, alive, energetic, open. Whatever negative emotion you have can be cleared. And if we don't do that, it's going to build it's like pressure in the body, and it'll build up enough until we can't, control it with our conscious mind. And that's where we get reactive, we project, we get triggered, and we behave in ways that we regret. So that's step one of why this is important. Step two is building the capacity. So whatever goal you have, whatever vision, whatever relationship dynamic that you want to build, whatever way that you want to give your gifts to the world is going to require a certain capacity. I was talking to a client of mine yesterday who, he's an executive client. He runs a company, but he just became a father of two. And so that ended up being our conversation. And he was just in it, not feeling motivated, feeling like he needed to escape. Like when he was at work, he just like an hour of alone in his office was amazing, because, his oldest child is 2. And it used to be like, okay, we can tag team, taking care of them. And when I get home, I can have some downtime, and then I can take care of them, and my wife can get a break. And then now with 2 kids and a baby, it's man-to-man coverage. And so he was kind of worried about like, man, why am I lacking motivation? How do I get back to doing things that fulfill me and like not needing to escape? And the advice I gave him was like, hey man, this is a season. Like, let's focus on filling your cup, regulating you. And his pushback was, he tends to be a procrastinator, which I don't really like that word, because it's a negative connotation, but he always gets the job done. Everywhere, always, at home, in his relationship, at work. And it's reflected to him that it's often last minute. It's like just in the nick of time. And so he needs a deadline. And so he's afraid of like reintegrating this pattern. But the thing is, and why I brought this up, is this is a unique moment in time that is one, a complete and dramatic life shift that our society tells us is not that big a deal. You can pop a baby out and then be back to work the next week. Whether you're the mother or the father, it's a completely different dynamic. And what became evident when I told him was like, hey, dude, you haven't built the capacity yet. Like when you had your first kid, that completely turned your life upside down. And then you got used to it and you're able to hold it and you're able to move through it. And now this is a completely different dynamic. And so he doesn't have the capacity yet. And that is what I think most people need. And we can try to like David Goggins our way through it and wake up at 4 a.m. and like run miles and miles, even with a broken leg. But eventually that's going to lead to burnout and stress, and pain and suffering and broken relationships. And so you need to learn how to regulate, and then you need tools, a daily practice, a breathwork practice to build your capacity. And a lot of the work I do with men is, I mean, all of it, every session, every men's group, we do a breathwork and embodiment practice. And it's like a 1% upgrade in your nervous system. And every day that you do it, you get a little more capacity, a little more capacity. And then the things that used to trigger the hell out of you, all of a sudden you can just breathe in. You can take a big inhale and exhale, relaxation. You know, when you get cut off at work, or, you know, the deal falls through and you're not sure how you're going to make money and pay rent this month, all of a sudden, instead of, you know, paralyzing and anxiety, you can breathe through it and say, okay, what do I need to do? How can I solve this problem? And that is all based on your capacity. So it's like, even in the NFL, we think about the best athletes of all time, who have, you know, they say veins of ice, because when it's the fourth quarter, I mean, this, by the way, this is like the difference between being the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and, you know, having a 1, 2, 3 year career, is your ability to play under pressure. And so why is Tom Brady so good? Because no matter where it is in the game, no matter how much time is left, if there is a chance, he will find a way to move that ball down the field and score points. And a lot of people can't handle that pressure. They choke, they get in their head, they force things. And that's because he has the capacity. He has the capacity to be with the energy of the pressure, of the weight of that moment. And every single moment of every single day is built through our capacity to handle the weight of that moment. We're either going to bend or we're going to break. And you can actually train this. You can train your nervous system. So what I what I really want to share is the awareness. And part of why I'm sharing this is I'm creating a workshop, a masterclass on how to do this. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to run you through one of my favorite breathwork practices, because essentially this is what's going to create. You know, it's so cliche. It's like, who are you becoming? It's identity shifting. It's like, you know, goals are not things we do. It's about who we embody. And so, I mean, think about any growth you've had in your life. I mean, I have clients who have been alcoholics for a decade and then they're not. And you can imagine they're a very different person. They feel different, they talk different, they walk different. And that's essentially what we're doing, is we're building the capacity so you can actually start acting and speaking and connecting as the person that you want to be. And we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, therapy is important. Mindset is important, you know, learning how to communicate and use words and ask questions and hold space and make eye contact, and learning about yourself and leading yourself, and all of that is important, but none of it really matters if we don't have the capacity. And so if you want to learn how, because I realize I'm talking about the importance of this, I mean, it's through getting in your body. It's through breath work is the way that I like to do it. And it has to be intense breath work. So a couple, you know, you can Google, there's more depth to this, but something like Wim Hof, something like Breath of Fire, something like Ego Eradicator, you do this, and you also hold the vision of like what you're wanting to adopt, how you're wanting to grow, what matters so much that you would do this challenging thing. And so something like Wim Hof, if you've ever done it, you can Google a YouTube video. It's very intense. It creates a lot of energy in the body. And what I mean by that is it's You'll get hot, you'll start sweating, you'll have like pins and needles in your skin. It might get euphoric, you might feel like you're gonna pass out. There's breath holds that are really, really challenging. And the longer you hold the breath, the more you're gonna get out of it. And it shifts a lot biologically, our CO2 tolerance, but more than anything, it creates a big imprint on our nervous system. The same way that our patterns, I mean, I probably should have started with this at the beginning, right? So, like, why do we have our patterns in the first place? Our habits, our habitual ways of showing up, our shutdown, our numbing out, our avoidance, our anxiety. It's because something happened in our life that triggered those responses. And at that time, that felt safer. So, for example, maybe you grew up in a family where it felt easier to um, dim down your emotions to make sure everyone else was okay. And that became a pattern because there was less chaos in your family and your life if you did that. Well, now you're a 25, 30, 40-year-old adult, and that doesn't serve you because you're people pleasing and you become allergic to intimacy. Like, you can't have the intimacy that you want because you don't know how to open up. You don't know how to speak about yourself. You make it all about other people. And not only does that create disconnection, but it also creates resentment and bitterness because you don't feel held and taken care of. And so the thing is that experience as a child was such a strong energy in your nervous system that it left an imprint and it left a pattern. And so we actually want to clear that out so that we don't default to that. We have to create the same level of imprint through, and what we could call somatic experiencing, which is such a buzzword, but it really means getting in the body. So it could be, I mean, I'm talking about breath work, but it could be like doing a really intentional cold plunge in a river where there is a physical and an emotional and spiritual connection. So I've done this before, a ceremony to release old parts of me. I get in the river, it's cold plunge, temperature, and there is a somatic response. Like, I start shaking, to stay in there for 5 minutes. And then while I'm in there, I imagine the river washing away. I imagine releasing, the self-doubt, the fear, the anxiety, the abandonment, right? And I let it go and I let it go. And the physical reaction in the body actually creates that charge, and we can create an imprint. So that's kind of like how you can get started. You could start with some of these, but if you really want to know, I'm going to teach this workshop, this masterclass, and then if you really want to go head first, join one of my men's programs. I have a men's group in Denver that's every other Thursday, and then I'm launching a men's program called Threshold. It's my foundational program. It's 12 weeks that will completely transform your life. We'll clear out all the shadows and wounds and childhood trauma and fears. And I'll give you the tools to grow your capacity so you're a different person. So I'm just really excited about this work and sharing more of it and talking about it because it's what I see so many people who know what they need to do and they can't because they can't access. It's too much. It's too, it's kind of like, I'll finish with the gym analogy. It's like, if you've never lifted in the gym and then you try to bench press 400 pounds for the first time, the barbell is probably going to crush you and you're going to hurt yourself. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do, is they don't have awareness for like, okay, what is my edge? I really like that word, edge work, where, okay, maybe setting a boundary is an edge, or maybe just saying no without an excuse to an invite. But it's something you have capacity for. It's something you can start doing. Whereas, maybe approaching a family member for how they emotionally abuse you in your entire life is like too much, or approaching a coworker or, something like that. And so we got to take baby steps, but also we can keep growing our capacity so we can be with more and more and more. So if you like this sort of thing, if you're the type of human who wants to go deep and live an impactful and a meaningful life, and also a fun, adventurous one where like you're on your deathbed and you're like, man, I played full out, this is the podcast for you. I'm going to be sharing what I'm learning and what I'm teaching, and also interviewing guests so I can learn and grow and evolve. Until next time, peace.